Hi guys, welcome back to Post Traumatic Bliss. My name is Kanini. In this video, we are going to talk about stress. Like I promised you, we are going to talk about stress and the effects of the body. I don't want to stress you or I don't want to worry you about stress, but I feel that when you want to understand mental health and you want to empower yourself, it's good to know what stress does and how you can avoid it. Without further ado, let's jump in. Let me give you a story. It's story time. I want to give you this story, and it's a heartbreaking story about this 60-year-old woman. I met her last year. I was in Oakland, and I met her. And she was having a vacation in the same hotel that I was. So we started talking because I was working on my notes about trauma. We started talking and she had the most horrific story I have ever heard about trauma. So she was in her 60s already. She got married, she had children. But when we connected, she had tried to commit suicide like 2 weeks ago. Her husband happened to come back home, and that was what saved her. But she had a gun to her head. She had so many things weighing on her. And once I started listening to her story, I realized this woman never healed from her trauma. That traumatic mind was always with her, and it was causing pain throughout her life, even when she got married. So her childhood was very traumatic. By the time she was 14, she got pregnant by the time she was 14, but she had already been to 12 foster homes. The system was just moving her from one place to another. The reason she could not live with her parents is because her parents were into drugs, and her father even pimped her out, and she had this traumatic thing that she didn't want to smell the shaving cream. Even when her husband was wearing the shaving cream, it traumatized her because most of the men that her father pimped her out to had the smell of that cream, right? So she really even did not like it. But her and her younger sister, they had been pimped out by their parents. If the mother was not in prostitution, she was doing drugs and not wanting anything to do with her. So, she was born into this family that was just dysfunctional by people who should never ever have had children. Then she met her husband, and he loved her exactly as he was, with her pain and all the baggage, and they set out, and she had a family. She never could get higher education because of her trauma, and the lack of opportunities. But she had managed to become a nursing assistant, and she worked hard and fed her children. And by the time I was talking with her, her children had already moved out, and now she was back in the house alone. And I can imagine now the mind, maybe when she was raising children, she could put the trauma behind her. But now when it was only her and her mind, this trauma was just taking control of her life. And when I met her, it was still traumatizing her at her age. And she was like, my therapist is telling me that I need to get to homeostasis, and I don't even know what that is. And I want you to get those words. She said, I don't know what the state of restfulness is. I don't know how it feels like. It's not something that's familiar to me, because she never had that ever since she was a child, right? She doesn't know what restfulness means. So I want you to think about this, about trauma, and the fact that it can block you completely from homeostasis, from restfulness, from just feeling that you're at peace. So anyway, I didn't want to traumatize you. I know that's one heck of a story. I should have probably warned you before I started the story. But in this video, we're talking about stress and the effects of stress. And we are going to continue doing this so that you can you can educate yourself, so that you can empower yourself, and so that you can know exactly what's happening in your body if you're stuck in trauma and stress. One of the things that stress does, immediately you get into a stressful or survival mode, is that it kills your thinking. And it's not because you did anything wrong. It's just the way our body is designed by God, that when we are under stress, we are supposed to deal with the situation that's at hand and not think about long-term things. That's just, efficiency for the body and the utilization of energy and survival skills. So that's just how the body does. It shuts down this thinking part of the brain, this advanced part of the brain. Some people call it the third eye. In science, we call this the prefrontal cortex. This part is shut down during stress. Imagine you're like this wildebeest and this gazelle, right? Is this zebra and this wildebeest over here. And imagine that this lion right here is chasing you, right? This lion is chasing you. So let's see what happens.
Oh my God, oh my God.
What happens when you see an event like this? You also stop thinking, right? Because it's like your survival response is activated when you see even other animals running for their life. We all know what the lion wants, and we know that if it gets any one of this, if it gets them, they're done. It's done for the day. And I feel very sad for the baby and the mom right here, but we all know what that means. So when you're in survival mode, what is happening in your body is exactly the same thing that is happening to this zebra right here or this wildebeest right here. When you're in survival mode, and stress can trigger the survival mode. Stress is the survival response in our body. When the animals here spot the lion, that's a stressor, because they don't want any lions around them. For there to be peace in the zebra and the wildebeest life, they don't need to see a lion anywhere. So this lion comes here, and immediately in the mind of the zebra and the wildebeest, the hormone adrenaline is released. So what the hormone adrenaline will do, it will make the heart of the zebra to pump a lot of blood so that it goes to the legs, right? And also it will pump a lot of blood in the face so that it can go to the eyes, so that the zebra can run away from this lion, right? So
Oh my God, oh my God.
all of them, they are running and running and running away from this situation. It's the survival response has kicked in, and they must survive. Because if you're slower than the lion, you're done. If you're slower than the lion, it's not your good day. When we are under stress, I want you to think about this. You stop thinking because you have to survive. There's no way you're going to sit around and start thinking, what route should I take? Is he watching this direction, or is he running this way? No, you start running. You start running immediately. You can't think. You can't think. So the people who are responding quickly to stress get to survive. But I want you to see the stress response. You stop thinking, then your heart starts beating at a very, 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 very high rate. Your blood pressure goes up because we need it to go to the eyes and the extremities, and so that you can run away from this danger. Faced by a deadly predator, you're in survival mode, and your nervous system activates the stress response or the survival response. And this is what happens when we are under stress. Our nervous system automatically kicks in and shuts down our thinking. Why do we have to shut down our thinking? This is just for the body to harness the resources, because thinking right now is not critical, is not important. Thinking could actually kill you when you're in survival mode if you stopped and think and put energy into your thoughts. So we shut that down so that we can survive. We have to shut it down. No thinking for you, no bueno. It's not good. It's just not efficient use of energy for you at that time. So we don't think any long-term future. You don't think about your marriage. You don't think about relationships. You don't think about saving money. You don't think about any of these things when you're under stress, right? Because thinking has been shut down. And I want you to think about the impacts of that. If you're constantly stressed out, you're not thinking. If you're constantly bothered by the past, the things that happened, your clouded thinking stops you from planning about the future. It's a deadly, deadly thing. Because thoughts take energy, when you're in survival mode, the brain understands that reason is not helpful, because when chased by a deadly lion, your body has to harness, your nervous system has to harness all the resources to save you. And when you're under stress, you're also in this survival mode. So if you're stressed out by the bills, it's even harder for you to plan about your financial future 10 years from now because of the survival response. It stops you from thinking. How fast do you think the heart beats to ensure that there is enough blood to go to their legs to help the zebra escape the wildebeest?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
They run very fast. As you can see, there's even dust when they're moving. You can see even a cloud of dust here. It means that they move very fast. It moves very, very fast. Your heartbeat is moving very fast when you're stressed out, And, I don't know if you've ever been into an interview and you start sweating. And you can feel that you're sweaty because you're just nervous, You're nervous. You're in survival mode. Will they take me? Will they not take me? You get into survival mode. When you're under stress, you are behaving like the zebra. What is happening in your brain is the same way the zebra behaves when it senses danger, when it senses the lion. Your brain will release this chemical known as adrenaline. Adrenaline helps you pump blood at a very high rate so that you're able to run or you're able to fight people. It's the adrenaline that helps you run. That's why we call it the fight or flight. This adrenaline causes fight or flight. Sometimes we freeze. Has someone ever told you something and left you speechless? Sometimes we freeze. We don't know what to do. Some animals are very good at that freeze response. When they pretend they're dead, or they'll pretend that they're like a stone, something that's not alive, so that the predator can go. I know when there was shooting at the Westgate Mall in Kenya, some people played dead so that the terrorists do not waste bullets on them. And that sometimes helps. Freeze. So when you're under stress, you either freeze, you run away, or you fight. So that's the survival response. But the survival response stops your thinking. It automatically shuts your thinking because thinking is not needed. So we've seen this over and over. The things that never change is that your heart rate will go up. When you're under stress, your heart rate will go up. And you start thinking about the implication of your heart rate going up. You can get high blood pressure. If you're constantly stressed out, if the thing is with humans, we trigger our stress. When a zebra is chased by a lion, once it has escaped, it forgets the event. It'll probably pee and then it'll continue on with the life. But for us, we remember things. And when we remember the stress and the stress response is triggered, our blood pressure goes up. Chronic stress is really bad for you. What happens also is that we dilate our eyes so that we can see clearly when we are under stress. So sometimes you can read people when you're talking with them, or you say something and they don't like it, or you tell them something stressful, you can watch their pupil. It'll go up because now you can tell that they are getting somehow upset. Or you can tell some people, like especially people who have a light skin, you can see blood. They turn red. They literally turn red hot. So you can see it. Again, blood flows into the extremities, the hands, the legs. For me, when I am nervous, I know I sweat more. Like my palms will sweat, Sometimes it's just because I'm nervous, and I can feel sometimes my forehead getting like hot. And sweaty when I'm nervous again. So under stress, we all tend to react the same way. We all tend to react the same way. We have the same body. It's designed the same way. Every woman is the same everywhere in the world. Every man is the same everywhere in the world. Our chemicals, our hormones are the same, for both men and women. Only that for men and women, we have slight differences with the level of testosterone and estrogen, but our bodies are designed the same, so we behave the same. And the first thing that goes away when you are under stress is your thinking. It just goes away. It really gets hard, especially when you have an argument. Maybe you turn red. For me, I sweat a lot. Blood flows to your hands, your legs, and when it gets red hot, the next thing that happens. People see stars. People see stars, and that's kind of like some of the things that happen. Like I told you, for me, interviews are like a big thing. They trigger my stress response because I'm wondering, will I get a job? Will I not get a job? We all been there. Or when you're in a room with strangers, or you're networking and you're like, for me, those kind of things like stress me out. What are your triggers? It's good to know, like every day, no more stress us. What triggers you? Like I told you, after the zebra escapes, right, from the lion, then they go back to being happy again. They are happy. Most of the animals will pee because they have escaped something very dramatic, but the animals don't have memories unless you're subjecting them to prolonged torture or stress. Like I know some people abuse dogs, and you can even tell a dog that's been abused. But for most animals, when the stressor is gone, when the lion has taken its kill, they go back to homeostasis. Their body goes back to normal. They don't remember the stress. They don't activate it by thoughts. They just go back to, grazing and, their happy life, mating and whatever zebras do for fun. Maybe playing in the water if there's no crocodiles. They go back to their life. But the thing here is they go back to a restful state known as homeostasis, the rest and digest state. When you're in homeostasis, you can sleep, you can digest your food, you can do all these like nice things that we do, like eating, playing, you can be creative, you can color, you can do all these nice things when you're in a normal, relaxed state of mind. But chronic stress is what kills us. Animals do not remember traumatic events like we do. So if you're not being constantly subjected to pain, like they forget it. If you're not subjecting them to any kind of pain, they just forget it. But humans, this is what separates us. We have memory. And because we can remember things, this will activate the stress response. So every time we remember something fearful, something that happened in the past, a traumatic event, adrenaline gets released in our body, and guess what? Our heart starts beating faster and faster. We start sweating. We cannot sleep. We cannot digest food. All these things start happening. When you work out, your body actually mimics the stress response, because when you're working out, your heart rate starts going up, right? And you're sweating, right? But you could be playing and having fun when you're working out. So it's kind of like a stress response, but it's also you're feeling good about it. So if you needed some stressor so that you can get going with your day, so that you can feel relaxed and fun, exercise is one of those things, because it triggers your body into a stress response, and then it brings on the endorphins, and then you start feeling good. Exercise is probably the best thing that you can do to your body, because stress in small doses is actually good, but chronic stress is what kills us. Stress in small doses will make you wake up and, do things that you probably want to postpone. The comfort zone is never a good place to be at. A little bit of stress is good. So our bodies are designed to take on a little bit of stress. A little bit of stress is not bad at all for you. It's the chronic stress that never goes away. That's what is bad for the body. So stress gets things done, and little stresses are good for you. So don't think lying on the couch is good. When I'm saying don't stress out yourself, I'm not saying go and lie on the couch and forget about your bills, because the couch doesn't pay your bills. A little stress is good for you. But let's talk about chronic stress. This will give the body a thorough beating. Chronic stress is not something that we should even joke about. So when your heart rate is always up, you will get high blood pressure, and high blood pressure can even lead to a stroke. So it can break some veins in your brain, and we know that the brain has very soft tissue, and this can lead to stroke. So we don't want chronic stress. We don't want your blood pressure to always be up. So for people who are in abusive relationships, for people who are constantly being beaten up, or you're in a very stressful work environment, you have to think about your health and what it can do. So always be checking your blood pressure to see how you're doing, because high blood pressure is a good indicator that you're under stress. And when your heart is always beating at a very high rate, right, that can also weaken your heart muscles. So when your heart muscles are weakened, you can get a heart attack. And this is just coming from stress alone. So let's start seeing stress as something to be avoided, just like the plague. When you are under stress, you do not digest food well. You cannot digest food. Remember, when we are in homeostasis, we are in the state we call rest and digest. It means that we are able to relax and digest the food that we eat without any stomach problems. So for me, I noticed, like, when I was under stress and I ate, I would bloat a lot. It's like my food wasn't moving from my stomach. So sometimes I just stop even feeding for some days, just so that I can feel like I am normal. Because sometimes, like, stress can stop your body from being able to digest food. And when you're not able to digest food, first of all, there is no nutrition, because we need a good we need good digestion for us to absorb nutrients in your body. So it means that you're going to be malnourished. And then the body has to eliminate the food that we eat. So that can even lead to even more dangerous food problems, because imagine if food is not being digested, it can rot in your stomach, like things like that. Or you can produce a lot of acid, and it can bring ulcers. There's so many things that can happen when you don't digest your food properly, because your stomach is the second brain. So just that you lack digestion because of stress, this can be very, very, very bad for your health. When we are stressed out, we do not sleep well. That is why, if you're really feeling stressed out, go, and you're not able to sleep, go work out, and make your body so tired that it releases endorphins and sleep, the sleep chemicals, so that you're able to sleep. Because stress stops you from sleeping, from resting, from sleeping. Now, if you're not sleeping for days at a time, like you're not having good quality of sleep, you will not be able to focus well. You will be making mistakes in business, at work. You will be losing your temper. You will just be, very easily irritated by other people, this can take over, this can take on a mind of its own. And a lot of people, they start trying to medicate themselves, and we see a lot of people going into drugs. A lot of people try to medicate stress with short-term pleasure, like sex, casual sex, drugs, and these short-term reward systems actually damage the brain more, because now you're focused on short-term pleasure instead of long-term goals. And now the cycle of failure starts. So you have to be very careful about what stress does to your mind, to your brain, and how it kind of conditions you into a life that you don't want to have. So chronic stress undoubtedly will separate you from good health and long-term goals and your vision and your dreams. Stress is bad. Stress can also separate you from a sound mind. And one of the things that you cannot think long-term goals when you're in survival mode. I think this is probably one of the most dangerous things that stress does. It stops you from thinking long-term. So you see a lot of people who are under stress. They are poor, they don't have homes, they haven't figured out how to do things in life, is because stress puts you in that kind of a mind. It locks you out of your thinking mind. It can actually block you, it can block you from accessing your higher faculties, the prefrontal cortex. Chronic stress is very dangerous. How does it do that? For example, trauma has been known to increase the size of the amygdala. The amygdala is the noisy part of your brain, the part of the brain that we just want to shut down, like just shut up. That part of the brain that we want to say to shut up. Trauma increases that part of your brain. And why does it do that? Because what we do, we become good at, right? So if you're very good at ruminating, complaining, and it just makes the brain becomes good at that. So if you do it for a long time, even the size of the brain, of that part of the brain that you keep using so much, enlarges. These are the things that we don't want to do. We want to use like things like meditation, so that we can, instead of enlarging the amygdala, we can enlarge the prefrontal cortex, because meditation helps the brain calm down and it moves us into rest and digest, into homeostasis, and then we are able to operate from that state of mind. So it all begins in the states of mind. Are you in survival mode, or are you in homeostasis, the rest and digest? Sometimes when we are under chronic stress, I think the arrow moved. The arrow moved. It actually should be able to, this is the hippocampus right here. Right here. The arrow moved. I'm sorry. The arrow moved. Okay, so sometimes the brain in children who have suffered post-traumatic, like PTSD, who have had a lot of trauma growing up, the size of the hippocampus shrinks. The hippocampus is responsible for helping you move from a state of survival mode into the restful state of homeostasis. But if you're already in an environment where you're always under stress, you're always in survival, you're always having to fight for your life, the brain realizes you never need to go back to homeostasis, because your environment needs you to just survive. So it shrinks the hippocampus, the size of the hippocampus, and the hippocampus is responsible for helping your brain move from the survival state into homeostasis. But if you're, for example, in a war-torn country, or you know, you're a child soldier. Like they saw that the brains of the child soldiers, they had a very small hippocampus. It actually had shrinked because they are in a war zone. They don't need to go into rest and digest because they're constantly needing the survival response to manage their environment. So people who are not able to go into restful state of rest and digest, they cannot, they have difficulty with using this prefrontal cortex. So they're not very good with studies, with education, because this part here needs to be activated. So you see that people who have a lot of trauma, they need a very, very soothing environment. You have to be gentle to them like you would be with a baby, like a small child, because of the trauma. You just can't talk to them like you would talk to a normal person, like a grown-up. You need to be 10 times more soothing and more relaxed if you want them to go back to that rest and digest. But sometimes they might even not understand that kind of state of mind because they are used to people being very hard and difficult on them. So when you're very kind, they might even find it suspicious. Like, what's wrong with you? What's up with you, right? That is why trauma and PTSD is very dangerous and stress for the human mind. So that means we must first get to the restful state of homeostasis. Look at this. He is just like, I'm restful. I'ma just stay here under the shade and not worry about anything. When animals are well fed and relaxed, when animals are well fed and they're relaxed, they don't need a lot of things. Like this animal right here, I think it's either a cheetah or a tiger. Sometimes I can't tell the difference. I know, terrible. I come from Africa. That makes it even worse. But yeah, animals, they really relax. Oh, what happened here? So anyway, stress will cost you relationship, your goal. So stress can, cost you your relationship, your goals, your future, basically. Stress can take all that away from you. So think about what stress is doing in your life right now and why you should wage a war against stress. We worry and think a lot, but we fail to realize that the worry is what is, taking a life away from us. So start your own revolution of laughing. Start laughing about everything, your problems, the small little things that happen in your life. Start your own laughing revolution because you want to beat stress. You want to wage war against stress and anxiety and trauma. Loneliness is the leading cause of stress, especially in North America. So I want you to find your tribe, right? Find your tribe, people who like to be around you, people who are happy being with you, people whom you can bring your problems to and they'll give you a hug, somebody to talk to. Being alone, loneliness is no bueno, very bad for your mental health. You need people who can hug you, people to talk to you, people you can tell about your life situation, a therapist. I always say if you don't have good friends, hire a therapist and always talk to them. Call them when you need to talk to somebody. Just talk. Talking is good. And when you pay somebody when you're paying somebody, then you're not wasting your time. Like if you wanted to talk to me and you're paying me, I'll be listening because I know, okay, I don't have to worry about my bills, and somebody needs to talk. So a therapist is actually a good person to talk to, and they will not talk about your problems to other people. Stay connected with family. It's nice to be with family. I know some family members are not like these actors here, but even if they're not that great, it's always nice to stay connected with them because sometimes they'll understand some things about you. So staying connected with family and friends is awesome. If you need help learning how to deal with other people, okay, if you need help learning how to deal with other people, I always recommend the Holy Bible. I don't know about you, but the scriptures actually really do help you, and it has helped me a lot in understanding how to deal with other people. Things like love your neighbor as you love yourself. Things like forgiveness, like turning the other cheek. All those things for me sounded very foreign language to me. I grew up in a very chaotic environment. But then as I grow up and I am getting out of my trauma, I start to really see the wisdom. Like the only way to stay away from the trauma is to stop feeding this mind that is traumatic and dramatic. I want to feel more emotions of love, joy, peace, happiness, and revenge will not take me there. Turning the other cheek will take me there. And I'm starting to see the wisdom of Christ. And I'm like, I want to train my mind in that direction. Forgiveness, the fruits of the Holy Spirit are peace, love, joy, kindness, self-control. Who doesn't want a peaceful life? Who doesn't want to have self-control? All the things that I can train my mind so that it stays in a restful state of homeostasis can be taught here in the Holy Book. I always say, read the book for yourself and the things that work for you in this lifetime. Because there are people who they are like pastors who have their own agenda, right? They are not there to help you grow. They're just there to, to preach the gospel that works for them, not for you. So I always say, read the Bible for yourself and find consolation. When I'm going through a hard time, I like the comfort that God is with me. He's going to provide for me. That brings me peace. And you can see that peace is everything for your mental health. So for me, I take whatever I can use to help me stay a mentally stable life. So that's a good tool, to help you condition your mind into restfulness, into peace. And other things that really help that are really helpful in this book is you stay away from trouble that will disturb your mind. A lot of people don't see the wisdom of, the book tells you don't be a drunkard. And drinking is actually very bad for your health. It's like the people who were inspired to write the Bible, they were coming from a very good place. They were like, if you know what's good for you, don't kill other people, don't steal from other people. If you know what's good for you, don't have casual sex with other people, because all these things, they traumatize you. All these things traumatize you, and if you're doing things like casual sex, sleeping with other people, you're causing trauma in other people. You're becoming the abuser, and it takes a big like for me, it took a lot of understanding to see those things for what they are and realize, like I need to change my behavior. There are things I really need to change. So, I challenge you to aspire for higher values, and the Holy Bible kind of helps us to understand, like we need these higher values. We need them. So yeah, take the Bible for what it is. It tells you the truth, even when you don't want to hear it. And the truth is actually helping you in your mind to grow, to focus on long-term goals, to stay in rest and digest, to give you good relationship with other people, help you in dealing with other people in business, it really helps a lot. So that is one of my tools that I use. People these days, doctors, lawyers are microdosing because psychedelic mushrooms have been known to help people move from the state of depression or, the normal life that we don't really feel any emotion. Sometimes some of us are dead emotionally. And most studies are showing that psychedelics are helping people form new neural connections. Like they are able to form new neurons so that they are able to rewire their mind and learn faster. There is a lot of studies that this microdosing on psychedelics can really help other people with emotions in getting back to restfulness, into homeostasis. All this can really be helpful. Working out releases endorphins. Working out releases endorphins, and endorphins are the feel-good hormones that we need so that we can beat stress. So activating the stress response for a little bit with exercise can be rewarding because it helps with endorphins later so that you can feel good. So again, things like exercise. Exercise is really good for you. So this is probably one of the best ways to beat stress because it's just right there. It helps your whole body. Somebody said, if you're having a bad day, sweat. Sweat. So this is a really good one. Meditation. I know monks meditation is huge. I know monks have meditated for years, and what they do is that every time they meditate, they build on new neural connections in their mind, and those neural connections for peace and calm can be activated at will if they do it for many years. They're able to activate the restful state of homeostasis. This is one of the best investments you can do to your life. You live longer, you live happily. If you grow the neural networks for calmness and peace, you just hit the jackpot of mental health. Mental health priority. Mental health should be number one in your life. I hope you make it a priority. Make it a priority. It's going to reward you, So before I conclude this, I hope that you are able to see that mental health is important and it should be a priority in your life. If you're going through trauma, stuck trauma, and you're not able to access the restful state of homeostasis, we can help process that trauma and close those tabs using NLP. Guys, if I'm offering this class for just so that you can understand mental health, and I'm not charging exorbitant prices, but NLP is where the work is. NLP is where we close that tab, and NLP is where we shut down that trauma system and move you back into the state where you should be of restfulness, of homeostasis. So let's do that. Take the next step, get the NLP classes, and let's get you there. In the next video, I'm going to talk a little bit about NLP, and I hope that you will begin to piece in the dots about mental health. Before we even go to helping you plan for the future, do things for the future, I would want you to just learn to to just shut down the whole trauma system. If you're living in trauma and in pain, I want us to process that trauma so that it stays in the past. We cannot change the past. I always say we cannot change the past, but we can stop the poisonous traumas in the past from traumatizing you in the present and poisoning the present. We want to clear that so that you're able to end up going on well with the future
without the baggage of the past. It needs to stay there. It happened in the past. It needs to stay in the past. So thanks again for tuning in. Again, my name is Kanini. So far, you're doing great. You're doing an amazing job. You're doing an amazing job. Once we do the NLP, then, we close those tabs. Then we can start learning about, the gap. You're here. This is where you are, and you want to go here. There's a gap between you. Maybe that gap is skills, but it will not be trauma. Maybe that gap is your skills or your attitude, or your emotions. We can move you from here to here. We start now growing. But trauma, we need to cut it. We need to cut that tree of death, uproot it from its very roots, cut it completely. And then we are left with our mind designed by God without trauma. And then we can start rebuilding our life, making more better and wiser decisions. If you like this video, always let me know in your comments below. Again, my name is Kanini, and this is Post Traumatic Bliss. And until next time, may God bless you.